so your perception is you're actually fulfilling. It's why I alluded to when I said in the first one, tell me what you want. Tell me what the real issue is. Because I think I'm fulfilling your demand.
Yeah.
Because I'm not capturing what you actually want because I don't know your business well enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know your business well enough because you don't trust me well enough.
Yeah.
In a sense of you guys selling reactive or proactive, we probably need to be the same, really. You know, a bit more proactive with our ordering ahead of schedule. And then you guys, like you say, you can tailor your stock levels to suit that rather than just saying this is what we've got.
Theo Webster, Tony Howard, welcome back. Thanks for coming back in to see us. You both well?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, good.
Well, you've made me feel fantastically underdressed, so thanks for that. No, we're really happy to welcome you back. And just for context, obviously Theo, you came to see us July last year, 2023, and then Tony, we had you in November 2023. So what we want to do is start with because when we had our discussion, Theo, you made a comment. This sounds really accusatory, doesn't it? But you made a comment on wholesalers, which Tony, thank you very much, had watched that conversation and referenced that in his. So I think the best place to start is to just remind ourselves how this started, Tony's response, and then we'll take it from there. So on the screen we'll see what you said initially. So here we go.
Rather than just relying on your wholesaler, and who don't necessarily have your best interest at heart,
right?
And it's nice to speak to directly. I think that works better because, again, going back to wholesalers just chasing that easy sale, they're not necessarily going to push certain things out to people. But I think.
Okay, so that was what you said to us back in July, and Tony, obviously, as we said, you referenced that. So this was an aspect of your response.
I think when people talk about wholesalers should do more, I think it's one of those moments when you want to have a meeting of minds.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do you expect a wholesaler to do?
So that gives a bit of context, and I think maybe that's part of the issue, which I think I've said. I think I said this on Blue in the Face, is quite endemic in or inherent in our industry, that we don't talk enough. So I think the best place to start is, Theo, your comment. Can you elaborate a bit more on where you were coming from, why you felt the need to make that?
Yeah,
statement?
I mean, I was promised no repercussions, but
well, we lied. Obviously, there was no contracts.
I think so. Maybe my statement was more of a blanket thing, but perhaps meant something different.
Right. Okay.
Covered my tracks here.
Yeah.
No, I think not necessarily chasing the easy sell, but it's obviously easier for you to sell what you've got on the shelf. You know, it might be more within their interest to provide me with a product that they've got readily available than ordering in something that's new or not on the shelf.
I think that this is the perfect opportunity to be pretty candid, and I mean, you know, we're not going to start throwing punches, and no one's looking to. This isn't this is in no way a gotcha conversation or anything. Yeah. So I think have you got examples where you've maybe, obviously you don't name names, but where you felt, you know, you've done that, you haven't given me the best service there, and it's in your best interest rather than mine. Okay,
so not so much on me physically buying something, but quoting.
Right.
I'm quite specific. I know you picked up on this when you did your video. I'm quite specific in my quotes in the sense that I will mention brands, perhaps not so much on containment, but on things like accessories, consumer units and that. And I know some of the wholesalers that I'll reach out to will almost completely ignore that and just price me for what they have on the shelf, you know, whether that is whatever, you know, whatever brand. And I don't know if that's because they've missed it or if they're just trying to get their bottom line, so they are the cheapest and hoping I'm not going to look at the rest of the price. But yeah, it'd be nice, like, you know, for people like myself, where you are specifically asking for something, to actually get a quote for that,
right,
would be great. But that's not like a big problem, but it does happen. And it's only because I'm quite meticulous that I noticed that. If I took a quote that was £500 cheaper and hadn't noticed that it was not for the materials we've specified, that could cause me a problem going forward.
Okay. Well, well, first and foremost, I think having to lead was going to be incredibly difficult, and being reminded of something you said in July was probably also incredibly difficult.
I was just a child at the time.
I think if we deal with that as a specific, I think it's a very valid point, and I think it does happen.
Yeah.
It happens probably more times than it should, but it is indicative of the general inquiry that most wholesalers get is less specific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is more. If I speak from a personal experience, there are more examples of us losing quotations where we have stayed on point with the brand or the actual product specified, and we've found out subsequently we lost it because somebody quoted a different product or a lower quality product. So I think I wouldn't defend it to the point of saying that it isn't true and it doesn't happen. I think if I answer on behalf of the wholesaler in general rather than Rexel specifically, it happens, and in some cases it happens because the quote request is very vague, very open-ended. In some cases, and certainly there are numerous occasions, like with yourself, where it is very specific. Some wholesalers, and let's be honest about it, quite a few, will manipulate it to get that extra £500 or £600.
Yeah.
Where you apportion the blame for that gets a bit more difficult. You could say that if contractors insisted that the quote they got back matched the quotation they offered or that they submitted, because you alluded to the fact if you didn't check it, you could well agree to place an order for a product that you actually didn't realise you were getting till you actually got it, or whether that responsibility sits more with the wholesaler. But I think almost by default it leads into perhaps a bigger discussion around the availability of products, brands, and everything else. But no, I think it's a valid observation to say that, in instances like that, the quote that you receive is not necessarily the quote that you ask for. Whether that's the wholesaler doing what's best for them, that's difficult, because you choose 5 wholesalers at random. You pick 5 wholesalers at random. The potential that they'll all stock something different or slightly different, particularly in commodity type products, cable, containment, conduit, and everything like that, then there is obviously the likelihood that you'll get a different quotation based around a different product.
Yeah, I appreciate it's difficult. Like I say, perhaps, in fact, I can almost guarantee it, a lot of people aren't as meticulous as I am, and perhaps don't necessarily care about what brand they're getting. So it's easy for me to get sort of missed in that transaction, if you know what I mean. You know, those elements of the quote get overlooked because 95% of people actually aren't specifically asking for...
and I think by acknowledging that, you almost get us into the industry as a whole, which is, I would maybe not, I may not credit you with as much as being, just 5%, and everybody else is not so meticulous. But I think there is certainly a large percentage of contractors that put requests for quotes in that don't check them.
Yeah.
They are just driven by the bottom line.
Yeah,
If the bottom line, wholesaler B is cheaper than the rest, then he gets it. And then if the quality of the products he's received later on, well, we never know. We don't know what grief he went through as a result of being supplied an inferior or a less quality product from the one he asked for.
So you don't see a lot of feedback in that respect.
We see very little. The feedback we do tend to get is when it's not product that we supplied. Strangely enough,
Okay.
We often see. I'll give you a real example rather than a fictitious example on fire performance cable. So the quote called for FP200. Yeah, which I'm not here pumping people's brands, but we know FP200 is Prismium.
Right.
It's a Prismium brand. Yeah. We lost that quote for about £1,500. Yeah. The cable that was supplied to the contractor was not Prismium FP200. It was an FP200 equivalent.
Right.
Yeah. Which the wholesaler had put on the quotation, but he had put FP200 small equivalent.
Right.
Yeah. Now we got that feedback because the contractor went ballistic over what he'd got, but he only went ballistic after he'd placed the order and received the goods.
Right.
So we kind of get that kind of feedback, but there are loads of examples where, particularly in the more commodity type product, we know that there'll be an issue with it.
Yeah.
Because in some cases, we can be criticised at Rexel for many things, but we do try to ensure that the products that we get meet a certain quality, a certain standard. But they come at a cost. They come at a cost to us, and they come at a cost to the contractor, and ultimately they come at a cost to the end user.
Yeah.
But there is too much of, from my perspective, bottom line overrides everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that I wouldn't say that actively encourages wholesalers to do what you're suggesting they do, but it does give them an opportunity to maybe steal a march on somebody else by just quoting a different product.
And do you think that, because when you came in to see us last November, one of the biggest takeaway for me personally was your point around how we don't take ourselves or we don't hold ourselves in as high regard as perhaps we should in the industry.
No, I think there is no doubt that throughout this industry, be it contractor, be it wholesaler, be it manufacturer, we value our roles and our positions in society the right way. I think we tend to put it as a subset of construction.
Yeah.
And therefore it's just the sparky, isn't it?
Would you agree with that?
Or it's just the wholesaler.
Yeah, I mean, what we spoke about briefly before we came on, that I've never really thought of it like that. We're all in this together, but we are sort of fighting each other all the time as well, seemingly, aren't we? But, I can't do what I do without yourself, and like you said, you can't do it without Metpro, for instance.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because
I mean, you look at the work that you do, and I mean, you've even alluded to it here in that you are meticulous, and you will look at your quotes. Do you think that? I mean, actually, you've already said it. You would argue that, I don't know if it's many, but other contractors even wouldn't be as meticulous as you.
Yeah.
Do you see that carrying through into the work as well? Like if you've got a client who you're quoting for a job similar to the wholesaler, do you see, are you losing work because people are willing to do it for cheaper and use an more inferior product?
Well, the trouble is the client doesn't know that it's an inferior product.
Yeah.
So you're saying obviously contractors looking at the bottom line. The clients are even worse. That's all they're looking at is the bottom line 9 times out of 10. So it has this knock-on effect inevitably for all of us. But I think I've got a few clients that they know what they want,
Right.
Which obviously helps, but a lot of people don't. So when they're going out to tender, they've got 5 or 6 electricians quoting for the same thing, and I guarantee we're all going to be quoting for vastly different things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're
going to get a similar finished product, but there'll be varying different qualities. Whether that's just a consumer unit or whatever, it'll be massively different. But
okay. So how would you? I know it's a big question to ask and to answer, but how would you combat the issue that we've just talked about on the quoting? So you put your request in. These are the products I want. You specify your brands. Your quote comes back, and it's not exactly as you've requested. Because that impacts people like Metpro. We know that it's similar to Rexel, Tony, that our products are always to the highest quality standards that we're able to achieve, and obviously that does mean that not every time we can be as competitive. We do our best, but we ultimately have to make a profit, and so we have to get involved in the competition, and it does make things harder. So should we all be demanding more? So if you say, I want, just to give ourselves a nice little free plug, but I want Metpro conduit on this job, and then the wholesaler should be, well, my customer has asked for Metpro conduit, I will get him Metpro conduit, and that will be the price. Is it just as simple as that, or am I being completely and utterly naive?
Well, you'd like to think it's that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ideally.
I think if you want to, obviously, I have a young man sat opposite me, so my experience goes back further. Yeah, but I would suggest that one of the problems that we find ourselves faced with is the advent of commoditization.
Right.
Referring to product as a commodity, which leads naturally into the brand presence.
Yeah.
When I was younger, much younger than I am now, everything was brand driven. Everything cable was brand specific. Now there might be cable manufacturers that no longer exist.
Yeah.
But they were brand specific. So everything from cable throughout the entire gamut of electrical products and even ancillary products was specified, even down to GKN screws, wood screws. Yeah, that was brand specific. So if somebody asks you for GKN wood screws, inch and a half by 8, yeah, that's what you quoted for, that's what you supplied, that's what you charged for. And it was almost a situation where, because of that, you had control.
Yeah.
So the contractor had control because that is what he specified. Therefore, that was all he was interested in, not the world that we inhabit today, when all wholesalers, I would suggest, do commodity. It's a commodity. It's 20 mil galvanized conduit. Yeah. It's inch and a half wood screws. It's cable ties.
You get what you get.
It's it's channel.
Yeah.
Now it's cable tray. It's cable. It's SWA. It's all of these things now have become a commodity to us. And with all commodities, you start that progressive decline where price overrides everything else, because it's then only the price that differentiates it from anything else. Because you're not selling a brand anymore. You're not saying my wood screws, cable ties are better, or my cable's better. We've kind of evolved into this commodity world, and that's driving both the price down, but it's also driving the quality down. Yeah. Because the only way you can undercut a cheap wood screw is with a cheaper wood screw. Yeah. And when, and I think I mentioned it last time, when I spend my time justifying to a contractor why our brass screws are more expensive than he can buy down the road, and I have to explain the lead content of this and the nickel content, etc., to end up being but they're cheaper. Yeah. That I think is why we've kind of got ourselves into this price is everything mix. I mean, from a supplier's perspective, within reason, and you know, this is trying to be open and honest on behalf of the wholesale community, not Rexel specific. But the UK is very egalitarian in terms of its price to wholesalers.
Yeah.
Most wholesalers are buying a branded product at roughly the same price. There might be a few differentiations around growth and everything else, but pretty much the same. That's not happening abroad. That's not happening in the rest of the world. You know, a big player like Rexel or Sonipar in France is commanding a much better price from the manufacturer than a very small wholesaler would get. And the whole industry now has become, you know, I describe it constantly as the Wild West because it is. You know, the proliferation of wholesalers.
Yeah.
The ease with which you can become a wholesaler.
Yeah.
And therefore you can, within a very short space of time, with no governance whatsoever, have a detrimental effect on the market.
Yeah.
Because you can begin to undercut
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and the less people there are in your business, the easier it is for you to undercut.
Yeah, so it's only going to get harder for you. You know, there's a lot at the moment, you know, where they're purely online wholesalers.
Yeah.
So they've not got the overheads that you guys have got. So they can put products out quite a lot cheaper just because they've not got all the premises and staff and everything else. But
yeah, I mean, for years, I can remember, you know, and not trying to make it too controversial, but for years, there was talk about the impacts of Home Depot from the US was going to come to the UK and completely revolutionise the way wholesaling was done.
Right.
There is still this talk around Amazon Business. Yeah, and them coming and getting into these different markets that we see. But the reality of it is they only offer a certain aspect of the service that a wholesaler can provide. So if it's yes, it's this part number, yes, I can order it online, yes, I know that's what I want. But if you're trying to do a project or you want varied products that they haven't got, then, well, you can't get them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, online ordering, online wholesaling has a detrimental effect on the price.
Yeah.
Because people have far greater visibility of prices now without understanding, you know, price and cost are two different things in my world. There's a price of an item. We sell a price of an item to Theo. That's the price. The cost of that item has many different variables. How far did he have to travel to get it? You know, I can sell it to him for £1. He can buy it 98 pence the other side of town.
Yeah.
Do you want to drive the other side of town to get that 2p saving to find that they haven't got the rest of the stuff that you thought you would get? And all of these complexities come into it. But we seem to have got ourselves at all levels into a mindset where it's the bottom line that we see, and as long as the product is a product, i.e. it's a socket or a length of conduit, no one really cares whose make it is.
Yeah. I think that sort of touches on part of what I said in my previous video as well about going for the easy sell, of making these things a commodity, is that, again, it doesn't necessarily matter what I want, but it's a case of what you've got. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting concept, because if you look at wholesalers in general, if you took the UK as an example, and I keep trying to put the UK into perspective to my broader view of the world. So the UK is the within the electrical industry is the largest market for own brand by far of any other electrical market in the world. Yeah. Now, why is that? Why has own brand become such a dominant part of of the UK, and I'll do a plug. Yeah, you just mentioned to me that the hand dryer downstairs is new look. Yeah. So, but and I know that Rexel don't make hand dryers. Yeah. So it's a proprietary branded product, or just labelled as an own brand. One of the reasons for that is the result of this commoditization. That to in order to control the quality of commodity, you had to create an own brand that you could then influence, i.e. I haven't got 4 branches in the north of Scotland selling one quality product and 4 branches in the southwest selling allegedly the same product but not quite. Again, it's you have to look at the market as a whole and say, why did we even need to do that? Why is there such a lack of control that our only solution to trying to maintain a quality product in a commoditized market is to call it an own brand?
Right.
When everybody, if you look at supermarkets have own brands, but the sales concept in a supermarket is very different to the sales concept of an own brand in the electrical wholesaling market or the electrical contracting market. And we're almost playing a defensive position all the time. Everything we're doing is kind of defensive. And your comment about wholesalers selling what they've got is absolutely right.
Yeah.
It is, the market is now so diverse and so many different varieties and versions of it. Hardly a week goes by that there's not another consumer unit on the market, or there isn't another bulkhead on the market, or there isn't something else on the market that nobody can keep pace with it. And it's like, if we put that on the rest of the world that we inhabit, can you imagine? I mean, most of us go to the supermarket, and to be truthful, if you go to Tesco's or you go to Sainsbury's or you go to Asda, apart from the own brands, it's pretty much the same stuff. Yeah. Wherever you go, it's pretty. No one's got a completely different version of bread or milk or something like that. But in the electrical industry, it seems like no matter how many players there are, there's always another one coming along to introduce, we're going to launch this, we're going to launch that. You only have to look at something like, EV, PV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that now, I mean, you could even ask me which is the best panel. I've got a clue. Because, like, every week goes by or every month goes by, there's a new player in that area.
Yeah. It's difficult because obviously looking at what you do, where it's predominantly sort of metal products.
Yeah.
Metpro.
Yeah, there you go. Metal products. That's it.
It's actually.
Yeah, that's the origin.
Well, there you go. I learned something.
Yeah. Nice bit of etymology for everyone.
But a lot of your competitors, well, certainly some of them, do a vast range.
Yeah.
One of the ones that, I won't say their name,
yeah.
but they're a cheaper brand typically.
Yeah.
But, they do everything from EV chargers, accessories, and, but that's in itself is going to tell me their product probably isn't as good because they've got their hands in, fingers in so many pies.
Yeah.
They can't be working to the same standards. Does that?
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't know.
Well, there's, I've got to be, because Metpro isn't in the game of, I suppose the more American way of doing things, which is slander all your competition and hope you don't get sued. To do that. But I think, look, I would say that Metpro feel that every one of our products that's on our shelves is manufactured to the highest possible standard. We do not cut corners. For example, on conduit tube, there were issues that we were aware of maybe 2 years ago now, maybe 3, with people bending lengths of tube, and either the galvanized coating was just completely flaking off, or the actual tube itself was tearing, because the wall thickness on the tube was too thin. Mm-hmm. So, we made a point of all our tube now 2025 mil is 1.37 millimeters thick. guaranteed it's that thick, and that increases as you go 32, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch. But you're quite right. Where you've got other people that have diversified so vastly, you know, the difference between steel cable containment, conduit channel, and wire and accessories, it just completely worlds apart.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've got a couple of ranges that are perhaps more peripheral to that, but our core strength as a manufacturer is in the manufacture of steel cable containment, which is why, I mean, steel conduit accessories are our bread and butter. We've done that since the company was established in 1995. And the new products that we've added, even most recently last year, was steel channel and steel threaded rod. And again, that was, we know steel inside and out, and we will not, like I say, cut corners. So when you talk about threaded rod, like you were saying about the was it the brass screws, and you have to go through explaining the nickel content and the lead content. I mean, a simple one on threaded rod is, well, what's the pitch of the thread? Because if it's anything less than 60 degrees, then you've lost a load of strength. And you know, you could Grenfell's a strong thing to bring into it, but you know, these are load bearing products, and if you haven't got your threaded rod that's to the maximum strength, and your steel channel you know, isn't up to scratch and isn't up to standard, and your steel conduit as well, you could have catastrophes. So sorry, that was a bit of a ramble, rambling way of saying yes. Yeah. Yeah. We think
cut that out.
Yeah. Yeah. So we always try to we want to expand our range all the time, but we're certainly not going to go and have a punt in areas that haven't got skill set in.
Yeah, I think so many companies are so quick just to try and like dominate the market.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's nice that you can, like looking at other like Fusebox, you know, they specifically do consumer units and distribution boards now as well, you know, and that's good. They're good. I think it's a good product. I know we're not talking about Fusebox, but I think it's a good product, and it's because that's what they do. It's all they do. You know, at Metpro, you're doing steel-based products, and that's why they're good quality. Yeah. When you've got a company that's just doing everything, I just think you lose that quality. So. Again, I don't know where I'm going with it.
No, it's okay.
It's like
I think you're playing into to Tony's point though on the array of wholesalers that are out there. I mean, before we were recording, you gave an anecdote which was around you could set up a wholesaler, wholesaling branch tomorrow with no regulation really. Then within 6 months you're part of a buying group, and then a year on from that they're able to compete with Rexel. Yeah. Because it's that fast. So I think it's a similar kind of thing. And that's not to say that all independents that pop up don't know what they're doing. I mean, you mentioned that you've had former contractors that have done it, so they know the products and what they're doing invariably. But it's a similar thing. If you've got all this diversification, and I think, you know, how many people really care about the quality of product at the manufacturer level and the quality of service at the wholesaler level?
Yeah. I think from a contractor point of view, it's because you mentioned, you know, going back 30 years, whatever, when Tony was a younger man. They
very kind of you. Yeah. I think you have to go back a bit more than 30, but yeah.
You know, it was very brand specific.
Yes.
I think going forward, it's going to become more like that because just of the nature of the world we're in, social media plays a massive part of our lives, and you know, influencers on there like Nick Bundy we mentioned,
and yourself. Don't sell yourself short.
Definitely not an influencer, but
well, you're on the way. Seriously.
You know, those people are very, you know, influencers. They're influential on people like myself and other contractors because, and you know, people like yourself obviously notice that, and that's why you work with those people because you're selling a good product and you want people to see that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not all of the products are good, but I like to think the influencers pick up on that and don't get involved.
Right.
So, you know, I'm seeing on a regular basis, say Nick Bundy using a particular brand of switch accessories, and you know, it kind of gets in your mind a bit, and you end up using that yourself. And at the same time, from my point of view, because we use social media and YouTube quite a bit, you're so exposed, so you don't want to use a rubbish product.
Absolutely.
Because you will be judged for it.
Yeah. Well, there's accountability, right? Which I think is one of the big things that's that's missing. And that was something else that we touched on when you came in before, which was, we're not. This isn't like let's get the pitchforks out and go on a witch hunt and really embarrass people. But do we? You forced, or you're inviting a lot of accountability on yourself by putting the work that you do online for people to see, because anyone can go and look at that, and you get the some bored troll, for lack of a better term, who's just
warrior.
like, well, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I would have done that differently. Okay, yeah, great. But people are able to just completely slander your work or praise it.
Yeah, there's, for every one person out there that would say something good, there's 50 people that would say something bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of bored people in the world for sure.
Yeah. But that's the same with any sort of aspect of business.
Yeah.
We'll send out a link after every job we complete for a review on Google, for instance. Yeah. Very few of them actually do it.
Right.
Because but if you've done something bad, they're going to leave you a bad review, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they are.
But it's, I think the fact that we are just so much more exposed, it's sort of pushing us to actually go back into having specific brands, using a good quality product. And I've said before, like, perhaps price isn't so much of a problem. It's more about what brand I want to use.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I still want the best possible price for that brand.
Oh, absolutely.
You do. But so it's...
I mean, from my perspective, I think the 30 plus years, to get me back to a young man, brand was more important. And I do think that when we look at this, if we are trying to find a solution to why we don't talk enough or why we don't communicate enough, I think we do have to roll it all the way back and say, right, okay, what do we do collectively to raise the awareness to the people who are ultimately the recipient of your work, my product, your manufacture, that it can't just simply be about price, that there is a reason for a quality product. I bought a new house 25 years ago. It wasn't a cheap house. It was a modern house at the time. And I walked in, and the electrical accessories were the cheapest on the market. Absolutely, yeah. And I know that even today, that's still happening.
Yeah.
That there is still, it's cheap as possible. Not illegal.
Yeah.
They're not illegal products. We're not talking about illegal products here. We are talking about products that are at the low end of a market. And there's an impact in that. There's an impact because they inevitably price driven. They are, in many cases, exceptionally low priced on a scheme from the manufacturer, which means you virtually cannot compete against it with anything else. And we seem to find that acceptable. We seem to think that's okay. Because the builder's got to make a profit and somebody else has got. But surely, we wouldn't apply that to food.
No,
yeah, very true.
We would not apply that to food. That the grocer's got to make a profit so he can sell rank vegetables. Or the butcher's got to make a profit. He can sell 6-week-old meat. We wouldn't accept it. We wouldn't find that acceptable. Yet somehow in the industry that we're in, and I'm not saying it's deliberate, but that's it is where we are, and we need if we're ever going to change it, we have to be honest about it and say it's less about who got us where, it's where are we? Yeah, because you can point fingers at everybody,
and it doesn't achieve anything.
And it achieves nothing.
Yeah.
It's about let's consider. Is brand awareness the way to go? And therefore, if more brands become more selective in who they deal with, maybe that helps, because you have a scenario, whether we like it or not, where the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of manufacturers, suppliers, will deal with anybody these days. When I was young, you had a franchise.
Yeah.
I worked in a branch that had a telemechanique franchise in a time when people couldn't even say telemechanique.
Right.
Yeah, that French stuff. Yeah. And nobody in the entire county could get that other than through the designated wholesaler. As a result of that, a contractor like Theo could go to that wholesaler and get anything within that range off the shelf there and then. No, I can order it in for you, or I can get it for you. No, because that was their speciality.
Yeah.
Today, virtually any wholesaler can do anything. Yeah, there is no prerequisite to be good at it. It's just they can do it.
Yeah.
So I can do it well. Wholesaler D can do it badly but cheaper. And so you're constantly fighting that strategy that says, well, where's the fault? Is the fault with the supplier manufacturer that they're now being driven themselves for sale, and therefore every wholesaler in the town will do product X or Y? Is it because they became greedy? Is it because technology that we now have to deal with eliminated the mystique of being a franchise? Now anybody can see online the products. Anybody can get a price for a product, whereas years ago that wasn't the case. So for a wholesaler now, we become progressively jack of all trades and masters of none. And invariably, we're the jack of all trades when you want us to be masters. So why haven't you got this? Well, there's a reason we haven't. 10 years ago, we might have done. We might have had all of it. But time's moved on. Businesses are run differently, and you're almost in the small shop versus the big supermarket mold now. The small shop can sell you product, but they can't sell it as well as the big supermarket. But we accept that because maybe it's your convenience store. Maybe you don't live within 5 miles of a big supermarket, and therefore you judge, well, I'm not going to drive for 30 minutes to get a can of beans that are 2 pence or 5 pence cheaper. I'll just walk to the shop and get it. So we've kind of got an industry now where so much is common, so much is the same, that wholesalers in general are losing their identity beyond price.
Right.
Because, well, we can all do the same products pretty much. We can all do the same brands. We can all do it good or bad, but we can do it. Some of us are more expensive than others because we have overheads, we have support functions that we have to support. Some of us will give you the ability to and the integrity of a supply chain. Others won't because they can't. And you've got all of that complexity swirling around that is driving availability, it's driving price, and yet none of us can actually put our finger on where the origin of that is. What's actually driving it.
Do you see that from? I mean, I know in this scenario you are the younger man, but. I mean, how long have you been a fully qualified electrician now?
Qualified 11 years.
Okay, so in 11 years, have you seen, say, I don't know, maybe a decline in expertise at the wholesaler level? Have you seen any significant changes? Would you say?
That's a difficult one. I mean, in some respect, yes, because locally, perhaps there's been quite a lot of younger people coming in to wholesalers. And they obviously have no knowledge, whereas, someone like Tony, slightly older than myself,
so diplomatic,
would have, he's been in the industry for 56 years. You've got vast amounts of knowledge that you've picked up. He's not a qualified electrician, but he's picked up on this stuff just through experience. So you're going to lose that definitely. I mean, not that I don't think. I think any electrician would be slightly daft to rely on their wholesaler to specify something. You should be able to try and work that out yourself, really. Because and the wholesaler, I'd be surprised if they actually told you as well, because they don't want any comeback.
Yeah.
So I think definitely there's a decline in that knowledge, but I don't think that would have any sort of massive negative impact on the industry. Like I said, because everyone's trying to cover their own tracks and that, so they're only going to tell you so much anyway.
Right.
And that, then again, also discussions like this, between manufacturer and contractor are becoming more common. I think so. That sort of takes the pressure off of wholesalers a little bit, in some sense. They're just sort of like a in between.
Yeah.
They're just they're the man who's charging me lots of money for it. And
Well, what do you? Because when we spoke with you, I mean, we showed the comment earlier, which was or the response even, and you're basically saying, it's all well and good saying that you want wholesalers to do more, but you can't just say that without any elaboration. So what do you want to see more of? So what do you expect from your wholesaler in an ideal world, aside from pricing, for God's sake?
It's a good question. A lot of your products are very innovative.
Thank you.
And they are.
Yeah.
You're taking problems that people don't necessarily know that we've got, and you're improving them for us. To make our life easier, save us time, save us money, whatever.
Yeah.
But whether a wholesaler doesn't have any incentive to necessarily push that onto myself.
Right.
They're salesmen.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, which is what they are. But whether they're selling me a length of cable tray or a length of roller tray doesn't make any odds. I mean, they might have slightly less margin on a new innovative product than a standard product. I'd imagine. I don't know. So they've probably got a bit more incentive to sell me what they've got on the shelf, because one, they've already got it, and two, their margins might be slightly higher.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think one, they're good observations. I think if I was to start a response to it, I would go back to your comment about the technical skills, because I think that's a very valid point. We as a business, so I'm being Rexel specific, have an aversion to our people being or attempting to be technically competent. They are not qualified electricians. They cannot sort your problem out. They can recommend product that they think is potentially suitable, but when people say, we went into your branch B and the guy didn't know what he was talking about. Well, invariably it turns out that he didn't know what he was talking about because it's a technical question, and these people are not technical. So I think that then leads us naturally to the next bit about selling innovative products. To sell, because that's effectively what we're talking about here, from a standard piece of cable tray to roller tray, for example, is a technical challenge. And therefore we wouldn't necessarily encourage them unless the customer is more ambivalent in terms of what he wants. I'm looking at this, or I've got this as a scenario. Have you got something that would fit? So I think we'd be doing a lousy job, by the way, if we were getting a worse margin on an innovative product. But I take the point that wholesalers generally are, I would say, reactive salespeople. Wholesaling in general has never been proactive. We react to the customer's requirements, or attempt to react to the customer's requirements, because there is such a proliferation of products and suppliers and manufacturers. that's not possible to always have what somebody wants at a particular point in time. But I do think that there is a case to suggest that collectively, and by collectively I mean manufacturer, wholesaler and contractor, we don't work together well enough to promote new ideas, new products. We don't really have platforms externally that promote new products. We might have a flyer in a branch, something stuck on a wall, new this from so and so, or new that from so and so. But again, it's a very reactive. It's not an in-your-face type promotion. So I think if you looked at wholesaling in general, I think it's reactive selling, not proactive selling. And as a result of that, there are lots of new products coming on the market that don't get the exposure that maybe they should do, and maybe would be beneficial to all of us, but we don't have the right platforms for it. We kind of don't.
It's difficult
engage.
Typically, for Rexel, if somebody wanted to stock with you a new product, you've got to buy a certain amount of that. And so you're taking a risk with a new product. So I get that, but obviously I completely understand what you're saying as well. It works both ways. I want to see them pushing new products, but it's difficult to do that because of everything that comes with it. But because you are the forefront of it all, really. They're making it, but you can only come to me through you, essentially. So it's difficult to get that happy medium.
But I think by default, and I would say it purely is by default, it kind of gets back to my old chestnut from the first interview about trust. Because I think in areas like that, there is an opportunity to start a dialogue and an engagement that is around trust. So rather than having to find out indirectly, that we could find a mechanism to find out directly around new products without it becoming, if you like, the hard sell. So it's not, we got this deal, do you want to buy 150 of them, because we have to buy 200 at a time. It becomes more about, do we as wholesalers generally make you aware enough of new developments in the market, new products from suppliers? Because you're right, we either face a scenario where the supplier goes direct to you with new products and we become reactive to it, or we actually try to engage with suppliers more to say, maybe we should have, I can't instantly come up with a solution, but maybe we have a forum of some kind that, even these kind of things we use to say, there could be opportunities for wholesalers and contractors and manufacturers to get together at the same time, so that we ably demonstrate that we're not actually opposite each other. We are actually all part of the same supply chain.
Absolutely.
And the same process. Because I don't think we do it. I don't think we actively, we have plenty of, as you would appreciate, plenty of engagement from a supplier with, we're about to launch this new product in 3 months' time. You could place an order for 50 grand, put it on your shelf, and you'd be the first one in the market with it. Okay, well, that's never going to happen. Because we don't know whether there's a demand for that product. Where it's difficult enough when it's a superseded product. This product's now going to be superseded in 3 months' time. You can't get it anymore. You now get this one, and we have to manage existing stocks. We have to manage our customers to say, well, we know you've done half the building, but you're going to struggle to do the other half because we won't be able to get it unless you give us an order for all of it in one go. So I do think there might be an opportunity for sharing more around new product and new ideas.
And that sort of goes back to like what I said about the influencers. They're manufacturers are going direct to influencers who, again, I suppose in some respect are more at the forefront than wholesalers. You know, they're in the public eye, if you like.
Yeah,
call it
yeah,
that,
yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, like I say, there's probably something needs to happen somewhere, doesn't it, for it to broach it?
Well, yes, because otherwise you won't get it, because you know the invariable fear within a wholesaler will be that you then want to talk to us about the technical capabilities of the product, and we're not competent. You know, we're qualified to say yes. You know, Metpro offer this product, or Schneider offer that product, or MK offer this product. We can't do the technical bit to say, and the reason you should switch from A to B is that this one's a lot better than that one is. You know, I've been horrified a few times in my career in branches to hear people say, and this one is much more, you know, it's far better product than that is. And afterwards I've had to say, you can't actually say that unless you're technically competent to say it. You know, you can say this is our preferred source, or have you considered this as an alternative, but you can't stipulate it's a better product, you know, because you aren't technically competent to do it.
Well, is that an opportunity for trust building then? And I would suggest that might even be a bit of a quick win. You know, if you've got we've mentioned roller tray a couple of times, so let's stick with that one as an example. So you Theo, you want to use roller tray, you don't know anything about it, but it, you know, the concept of it is like, yeah, I like the look of that could work for me. You go to your wholesaler and your wholesaler, we can get it for you. However, if you know, but you're asking for technical information, so is that an opportunity then for the wholesaler to say, let me put you in touch with the technical team at the manufacturer, in this case Metpro, to take you through all of the technical aspects of the product, and, you know, put your mind at rest on any questions that you've got. And then you've got a nice dialogue going throughout the supply chain. And the wholesaler is confident that Metpro in this scenario isn't going to sell direct to you, because we never will, by the way.
Yeah.
I think my only concern with all of it, and this is trying to be honest from a wholesaler's point of view, when we talk about wholesaler, we have a habit of generalising a wholesaler.
Yeah.
You know, Theo will know from personal experience. I mean, when he goes to his wholesaler, who's he dealing with? You know, invariably he could be dealing with the guy that serves on the tray counter.
Yeah.
Or he might know the assistant branch manager, or he might know the branch manager. But he's unlikely to know anybody above that.
Yeah.
And yet what we're talking about here would need an active engagement, I would suspect, at a higher level than that.
Okay.
Expecting, you know, with all due respect to, because I was there once, you know, a 19-year-old on the tray counter to actually think about everything he's got to pick.
Yeah.
He's got 5,000 items in the warehouse. He's got to try and remember them all. And then, by the way, deal with this. I think if you're going to do that, you've got to start to evolve a process for doing it.
Okay.
Rather than say, well, that'd be a quick win, but I'm not, because the quality of what you got back would vary tremendously.
Right.
If the guy on the tray counter is 45 and been in the industry 25, 30 years, he's going to have a very different kind of response to maybe a 19-year-old who's been in the industry 6 months, 9 months. And so I think you'd end up with a bit of a spotty kind of response. I think what you have to do is you have to be creative enough to say, right, okay, then there has to be a mechanism in place for making this awareness of new product, new innovation, new technology more universally available than it currently is. Because if I'm speaking on behalf of wholesalers in general, there's a vast difference.
Yeah.
You know, you have you at one end you're going to have a Rexel or a CEF with marketing departments and IT departments and everything else, a massive organisation behind the front of the local branch.
Yeah.
If you're talking about an independent wholesaler or a more localised, he's not going to have that kind of resource behind him, and therefore expecting him to deal with it in the same way would be a bit risky, in my opinion. Yeah, I think this active engagement bit to like we're trying to do today, just be people and talk about your issues and your problems and see whether they are just historical problems in the way that they've always been done that way, so nobody really thinks, whether it's because the wholesaler thinks he knows better what the customer contractor wants, or whether the contractor knows better but is expecting the wholesaler somehow to know what he wants. For me, it would be a case of trying to find a structure or a mechanism that said, if we're in a market, I get all the social media bit, I really do, even for an old guy, I get it. Yeah, not very good at it, but I get it. Yeah, but if that was carrying the level of influence at the moment that we want, a lot of the problems we have wouldn't be there. But I think that you've got an industry at the moment which is probably split almost 50-50. You've got what I will call colourfully the old guard, people like me who've come from a different time and a different way of working and a different exposure to all of this technology. And then you've got the younger guard where this is evolving. And people like me saying, oh, well, I don't like this and I don't like... That's irrelevant. This is what the future model looks like. And so you have to then build this part about evolution and new products and technical support into a new model that says in future, this is what a wholesaler looks like. Not, well, it's Tony's view of a wholesaler hasn't changed. Tony still thinks like when he was a young guy and the guys came in the morning and they wanted a bacon roll and a newspaper on a tray counter, and they'd be in the tray counter for half an hour having a coffee and a bacon roll and reading the newspaper while you ran around and got, because there were no computers, you just ran around and got all the products for them. I'm sure that in this modern world, they can't afford to have
it's very fast pace of life.
Yeah.
Everything is now, isn't it?
Yeah. So everything's now, instantly, now. And if we're going to get to a now kind of solution, then maybe, we have to come up with something that's different.
Okay. Interesting. All right. I think that's one to... It's not something we're obviously going to solve in this conversation, but I think it's... I'd like to hope that obviously, Tony, you're almost at the time of recording. You haven't retired yet, but when this goes out, you'll be off and away. So, but certainly for myself, for Metpro, and for yourself, Theo, and hopefully people that tune into these, it kind of encourages a bit of self-reflection, a bit of thought from themselves, and hopefully we'll start to see some more dialogue at different levels coming through. But I think just moving on from that section slightly and coming back to another, I'll say frustration that I've heard from contractors in relation to wholesalers is the stock levels. I mean, we've alluded to that already, but we spoke to a guy, Aaron Fleming Sahid from Cycling Sparks. So that was just a short while ago, and he was advocating for wholesalers to develop their stock levels and build at the space, because he's seen trading estates just being levelled throughout London in space for luxury flats and things like that. So is that something that you would want to see?
Yeah, funny enough you mentioned that. So literally we were working in Dagenham
right
a few weeks ago, and we went to a wholesaler there, not one I use very often, but we went in there and I'm thinking, we're in London. I'm going to be able to get what I need.
Right.
How could I have been more wrong? Honestly, it was horrendous. We needed quite a lot of... I say a lot. It was about 30 lengths of like 6-inch steel tray and loads of armoured and things like that. And I couldn't get half of what I needed. And I was quite shocked. I've never experienced that. So my local wholesalers, to be honest, they are very good.
Right.
We're in Devon. It's a small place. It's not like there's lots and lots of massive development going on. But their stock levels are always really good. I can 90% of the time always get what I need.
Okay.
But I was just shocked. East London, I could not get 30 legs of tray. It was mad. But yeah, I suppose it's it's just keeping it relative, isn't it, to where you are?
Yeah.
You know, because a tiny little branch, you know, in the deepest, darkest depths of Cornwall isn't going to need to hold as much as someone in central London, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, stock levels, obviously, you know, again, that will dictate what you're buying. You know, if, you know, obviously Nulek is your own brand, you're going to keep a significant amount of that in comparison to perhaps other brands. But I might not want to use Nulek, and it's a difficult one. That it's stock levels are important, definitely. It's tailoring to what your clients want, I suppose. Like my wholesalers, like I said before, they are very good, and they sort of listen to what we want and what we use, and they tailor their stock to suit that. So
okay. Is that something that's on the Rexel agenda, or something that you've seen yourself? Have you seen a big decline in wholesaler stock levels, and would you like to see it come back up?
Well, I suppose to answer it, I've got to be more Rexel specific, because I don't have visibility, obviously, of my competitors' stock holding, stock levels. I think if you look at it from a Rexel perspective, I think stock is constantly one of the issues for any wholesaler. I think all of the problems link back to the same kind of route, which is, what do you keep?
Right.
What's the contractor going? You know, in very simplistic terms, if you have 10 contractors, 10 customers, then getting your stock right is going to be easy.
Right.
Yeah. When you take the average branch having 300, 400, 500 customers, it gets more difficult to say, what should we keep, when it's two things happen. One, most, if not all, wholesalers are driven by computer systems. Yeah, and this is not a Luddite moment of being anti-computer systems. But as I said earlier, before we started recording, you know, in my younger days within wholesaling, you know, we kept stock levels very much based on visual. So we would walk around the branch weekly and do a stock list. You know, basically, if there was a hole somewhere or a very low level of stock, we filled it up. There was no historical demand. There was no was taking you 2 years to sell the 50 you had before. So buying another 50 is not commercially viable.
Right.
So I think that's part of the problem, is that this everybody's trying to be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
Rather than say, no, we don't do that brand, but we have this brand as an alternative.
Right.
So because the breadth has got wider, the depth has got less.
Okay.
So there's less stock of any particular, but there's a wider offer.
Right.
So maybe we say, you know, in when I can't remember, I'll make it up. Yeah. You know, there might have been 100 items in the branch, but we had plenty of stock because that's what we were, a wholesaler.
Yeah.
And over the years, wholesalers have gone from being a wholesaler to a distributor.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You know, wholesalers moved to distributor. Now, for me, that was just a fancy word, because somebody obviously didn't like wholesalers or call themselves a distributor. And now we're migrating even further beyond that to, certainly from a Rexel perspective, to be a service provider. But within each of these evolutionary steps, you lose something of the root of what you were. And let's be honest, margins today are not margins when I was growing up in this industry. You know, however successful you are as a wholesaler today, and I'm sure the same applies in contractors and manufacturers, margins are much thinner today, much tighter today. Therefore, there is a stringent control over cash flow. You know, payment terms today, I mean, when I was a rep for the first time, I used to go round my contractors and collect a check.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And regular as clockwork.
Yeah.
And I was out on a Friday night at 9, 10 o'clock at night, because these guys are working. They're not going to be there when it suits me during the day. They're out on the tools, they're working. So I had to go round every night and pick the money up. Now, payment terms, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
Mm.
So accountants, bless them, within a lot of these businesses, and particularly within wholesaling now, are rigidly controlling cash flow,
Right.
available cash. That's impacting stock. Now you can only stock basically what you sell, and that always has, in my opinion, created a problem.
Right.
Because if you sell 10 cups, you stock 10 cups.
Yeah.
You sell 10 cups, you stock 10 cups. You think you're doing a good job. Nobody's saying, but every time Theo comes in, he wants 20.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when we say we haven't got 20, we only got 10, I'll go
Yeah.
somebody else. So we proliferate the problem because we're being driven by a system now, not by visual, not by experience. And I don't want to sound like a Luddite that I'm suddenly, computers have ruined the business. There's still people in the business.
Yeah.
But I see it more and more around this sell 10, buy 10, sell 10, buy 10.
Yeah.
We're not able to capture lost business.
Mm-hmm.
That's our problem. We don't capture lost business. Now, again, sorry to keep harping on about being young, but I was once, and I like to remember. We used to keep a book under the tray counter.
Right.
Yeah, and my old boss taught me if they ask for something and you can't supply it, or you can't supply all of it, you write it down.
Yeah.
You write it down. That never happens today because everybody's driven by the system.
Right.
And the system is saying we sold 100 lengths of conduit, we want 100 lengths of conduit. We sold 100. And so your perception is you're actually fulfilling. It's why I alluded to when I said in the first one, tell me what you want. Tell me what the real issue is. Because I think I'm fulfilling your demand.
Yeah.
Because I'm not capturing what you actually want because I don't know your business well enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know your business well enough because you don't trust me well enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that differs when I talked about trust in other countries, where the contractor and the wholesaler are much closer together, that they're actually discussing not what you need today, but what you might need in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
I've got these products, I've got these projects coming up, they're going to have these types of products. Yeah. We're not in that space. We're in the, I've got the job now, I need this, I need 20 lengths of 6-inch cable tray, and you ain't got it. Yeah. So I think you've got a combination of things. You've got a combination of too much of wholesaling now is driven by inventory systems that are just capturing actual sales, not lost demand. And you've got this, we're adverse to sharing forward thinking.
Right.
Because we kind of think, well, one of us is going to abuse it.
Yeah.
Rexel, if I tell Rexel about my business in 6 months' time, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket with them.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do with it? They might go out now and try and switch sell the product, or, well, Theo's going to want this product in 6 months' time. Let's see if we can find a cheaper version of it or whatever. Or maybe we'll go and try and sell that to somebody else and betray his trust.
Right.
That's the bit that I was alluding to about where we need to move the industry forward.
Okay.
Because they all have these knock-on effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you touched on that in your last video between the two of you about how it is also last minute. I come in and I want it today or tomorrow, but this is a job that I've been dealing with my client for 2 months. We probably, in a sense of you guys selling reactive or proactive, we probably need to be the same, really. A bit more proactive with our ordering ahead of schedule, and then you guys, like you say, you can tailor your stock levels to suit that rather than just saying this is what we've got, or whatever. Yeah,
I think most wholesalers, and I'm trying to keep this broad without drifting back into a Rexel specific selling session. Those 56 years haven't all been with Rexel. They've been with other wholesalers. So I'm trying to put this from a wholesaler generally rather than Rexel specific. most wholesalers can fulfill what a contractor needs. Yeah. But it is that visibility aspect, whether it be on regular demand, because dependency on a system takes away the interaction with the person. That's my belief. At the end of the day, if you knew what somebody wanted, if you knew your customer well enough, as we used to do in the old days when you had to do everything manually, you knew well, Theo has MK wire and accessories, he has, I could give my age away now, Thorn pop packs. You know, he's going to have, Pirelli cable. Yeah, there's another one. You could tailor your stock around that. You could do that. With the technology now, it counteracts that.
Yeah.
You put 5,000 meters in, and the system says you only need 3. Yeah. And if you're working for a big organisation, you're going to be penalised.
Yeah.
Because that's excess stock.
Yeah.
So you're actually, don't put 5. I know he wants 5. We'll put 3 in. Yeah. That'll keep him happy to start with.
Yeah.
And then we get the balance in it when he needs it. And that's all very clever, but it's not very sophisticated, and it goes wrong because someone either forgets to order the other 2,000 meters or something like that, or you can't order the 2,000 meters because the lead time goes out. So it is this. If you're going to improve it, you've got to take that extra step beyond what we do and say, can we? I'm not saying it would solve the problem, but I'm saying we can't capture the lost demand. So that bit is difficult for us.
Right.
Yeah. Because unless we keyed in 100, and we only ship 50, so we know the demand was 100, but the actual usage was 50. We actually only key in the 50 we sell.
Right. Okay.
So again, we capture it's 50.
Yeah.
Now, so we're out of kilter with that. But on the bigger projects and forward planning, we don't do enough of it.
Okay.
And when we do it, it goes horrendously wrong because there are all kinds of constraints around it. It might be that it's a physical requirement that the local branch can't fulfill. It's not big enough. It can't hold a certain amount of stock to fulfill the demand, so it's still trying to second guess on a back-to-back basis.
Okay. I think, to be honest with you guys, I think we've covered quite a lot, and I'm conscious of time. I mean, we've been going for over an hour now, I think by quite a bit. And so the last thing we want to do is overload people with information. But I think if we start to bring this to its conclusion, I mean, this all started with, I would suggest probably a likely offhanded comment that you came out with.
Quite
Theo.
broad.
But there's definitely, it's come from a place of truth. And you've been able to elaborate on that and put your points across to Tony. And Tony's very gracious.
He'll take that into his retirement.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. But I think having sat here now across the table from Tony, who's had 56 years of time in wholesaling, have your perceptions perhaps changed or evolved towards the wholesaler?
Yeah, there's a lot of points have been brought up that perhaps I don't see or about, but don't really think about, and it's like I said to you, it's changed my opinion on, in particular on like the price of things.
Right.
How a lot of people do look at the bottom line, but that bottom line, yes, it might be cheaper, but it's not necessarily, it's the same quality and things like that, And it will definitely change the way I do things going forward, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And Tony, as we alluded to earlier on, at the point of recording, you're just over a week away from retirement, is it?
Indeed, yes.
Now, not that you're counting the days or anything, obviously.
Okay.
But I think what would be really interesting with someone who's at almost the very end of their career, what advice would you give to the industry moving forward, looking back on the 56 years?
Well, I suppose if advice is the right word, I think opinions, thoughts, if I look at the industry of where it's evolved, it's still fundamentally the same business that I walked into 56 years ago. The products are essentially the same products. Yes, I sold conduit in 1968.
Yeah.
But it was 12'6"
Right.
length. Yeah. It wasn't 3.75 meters. Yeah. What's changed the most is what's happened around it. So technology's moved on. It was very much an industry then that recognized the value of the three components.
Right.
So we valued the manufacturer, we valued the wholesaler, and we valued the contractor. And each one acknowledged the problems and the issues that the other one had, because it was very much a people business. Now, without repeating myself, technology has come along and replaced a lot of the interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
People do not talk. People do not communicate. We think in a world of wholesaler and contractor. I prefer Theo and Tony.
Yeah.
And Jake.
Yeah.
I don't think we serve any great purpose when we become the embryonic wholesaler or the embryonic contractor, because it dehumanizes us.
Yeah.
And once we dehumanize anything, we're more prone to make mistakes. So we talked about systems that determine the stock level because we can't capture. But we used to be able to capture when we didn't have any of the technology.
Yeah.
Because we knew the people.
Yeah.
We knew the contractor better. Yeah. Yes, they had more time. And therefore they could spend more time with the wholesaler. And, the times that I walked around a store with the contractor in tow, and he went, I'll have 10 of those and 5 of those and 7 of those, doesn't happen now.
Yeah.
We're more security conscious. So my advice would be, try to go back to the root, which is the people.
Yeah.
Try to understand that there is always a reason behind the obvious. Yeah. So if somebody doesn't have something that you want, there's a reason why they don't have that.
Right.
Now, it can be communication, it can be by design, it can be through ignorance, and it can be through happenstance, because none of us can control everything. We drive on motorways that get shut, deliveries don't turn up, whatever. I just think that this whole engagement piece that we're going through came through communication, about having a discussion. And for me, the important bit to get across to Theo on behalf of wholesalers in general, but me in particular, is we want to work with you. We want to provide the service you want and you need. There is a danger that we think we know what that is. And the reason that happens is because we don't talk, or you don't tell us. Yeah. And as I've said many times before, when you talk to people about things, there are opportunities to change things. When you don't talk to somebody about it, when you just complain about it, they never got what I want. Okay, well then they never will do, because they don't know what it is that you want.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's try to build a more cohesive system, method to communicate better, because we have all these industry institutions, but they're all very insular. ECA, EDA, BEMA, BASEC, all of these different organisations, contractor organisations, wholesaler organisations, manufacturer organisations. How often do they actually get together collectively to discuss their problems, or do they discuss them all in isolation? And then when they're all in isolation, well, of course, wholesalers will always say, "Oh, it's the contractor. They never know what they want. They're never consistent, and they always moan." Yeah? Contractors, wholesalers, they're useless. They never have what you want. They can never deliver it on time. They never deliver it in the right way. Wholesalers to suppliers, well, they're rubbish, aren't they? They supply anybody. Yeah. They tell us they can do this, and then they can't, or they tell us that. But we never get together. We never have that collective, so we can say, well, is that actually true?
Yeah.
Or is that just a perception of truth? So for me, communicate more. Look at the people, not at the institutions.
Brilliant. Okay. And then, Theo, coming over to you, for all intents and purposes at the start of your career, what do you want to see more of moving forward?
That's a good question again. Again, more communication, just having the ability to have honest conversations about things and not feel like there's already a predetermined answer behind what's being said. And actually properly discussing things and not being told things. Or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And just maybe, certainly from what we've said, perhaps as a contractor, if you're wanting specific things, just be a bit more clearer about that. And from a wholesaler's point of view, I mean, to be fair, my local wholesalers are quite good. They, like I said, they've got to know what we like. So maybe on a broader spectrum, if that was possible, I know it's difficult because you're talking like a tailored service for each individual contractor, but that's almost what we need in some respect. And that might get easier as time goes by and AI becomes more of a thing. That's going to, have interactive systems where it will become easier to be specific for individual contractors. But so just having that more personal approach like you would have had when you started your career, which I think probably isn't there anymore.
No, it's not. I was going to be flippant and say Rexel haven't managed to use AI to create a version of me yet.
Well, I think from my perspective and the position of manufacturer, and certainly talking on behalf of Metpro, like you say, Tony, communication is a big thing for us. We value it so much. We understand the necessity of emails and other ways of communicating, but what's wrong with picking up a phone? The art of conversation is dying. But luckily, mediums like this, I think, seem to have. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself personally, so there is definitely a place for it. And we've got a number of conversations lined up, but we want to keep having them more and more. We want to be challenged. We want to have a wholesaler come in and tell us where where we're going wrong. Okay, well we'll give you our reasons why, but hopefully we can find an amicable solution forward, so that the entire industry benefits, not just the manufacturer or Jake and the wholesaler or Tony and the contractor or Theo. So I think we're all pretty much in alignment, and hopefully we'll not that you'll care, Tony, but hopefully for me and
I do care.
I know.
I do.
It's
care
very
because, evident. Because I care about the contractor, the customer, because ultimately, whether we refer to them as the contractor or the customer, they are a customer.
Absolutely.
And I've always been an avid fan of Walt Disney's statement. The customer might not always be right, but he's always the customer. Yeah. And I've always tried to do my best in my job and the businesses I've worked for to respect the fact that the customer is the customer. That doesn't make dealing with it when he's not right any easier. But Theo's right. We all have pat answers. Oh some of them annoy me from the day I started in this business to the day I'll leave. I hate deliveries of 7 to 10 days. They're 7 or they're 10. They can't be 7 to 10. Or I'll ring you back in 5 minutes. You cannot guarantee a customer you ring back in 5 minutes. Just tell him I'll ring him back as soon as I can. If somebody says to me I'll ring you back in 5 minutes, at 5 minutes I'm on the phone again. Where are you? So I think it is this personal thing, and I think my views of the future, as long as we don't lose sight of that with AI and everything else, the industry survived. It will continue to survive. As long as we need electricity and electrical products, then there will be a place for all three of us.
Yeah,
100%. Absolutely. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. I thought it was brilliant, to be honest with you. Really good discussion. Theo, you've already referenced it. You're active on social media and YouTube. You've got your new studio built now. So I'm assuming we can see a lot more content coming from you.
Yeah, there should be lots more coming out. Yeah.
Lovely. And is it at Theo Webster?
Yeah, so at Theo Webster Electrical on Instagram and the same on YouTube as well. So
excellent.
I expect so many followers.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, mate.
Really appreciated it. And Tony, once again, retirement's imminent.
I will not be on Instagram, but I will be on a beach somewhere.
Oh, excellent.
I wonder where I'd rather be.
well deserved. And from everybody at Metpro, a huge congratulations. It's been a pleasure working with you, and enjoy a long and happy life. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. And we'll see everybody on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.